Okay, everyone, it's officially 8:30 p.m. Let's grab our seats. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. And welcome home to everybody. Quick announcement, this group has commitments, running commitments at treatment centers. Thursday morning, 10 a.m. in Easton, if you're interested. It's a PHP IOP program. They need to hear people that have entered this program and are staying sober on the outside. It means a lot to them. And every Sunday night we do it in treatment up in Quakertown. And again, about, I'd say, can be anywhere between 60 and 78 guys. And they need a message of hope and recovery. They need to hear from you. If you've ever been in a treatment center, you know how important it is when people come from the outside and bear witness. And over the last, I'm going to say, now it's probably 4 or 5 years, we've donated probably close to 1,100 big books to treatment centers. So your donations and contributions are put to work carrying this message to the sick and suffering, which a lot of them don't even get that opportunity in the treatment center. So that's what we're all about here. This group's all about service. If you ever want to do service work, hang out after the meeting or get here early. We're here at 7:15. Pretty easy to talk to. A lot of really nice people here about recovery. And if you're seeking that, we'd love to have you come along the journey. With that, we have the world's greatest chairperson all the way from Colorado. Let's welcome Brian in. Give him a warm welcome.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic.
Hey, Brian.
This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. That's 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. The food and the fellowship for this group starts at 8 o'clock, and the speaker comes on at 8:30. There's a business meeting for this group. It meets every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7:30, so feel free to come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all our speakers so that others can benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone that's new at this meeting for the first time or visiting from out of town that would like to introduce themselves on a first name basis so we can welcome you?
I'm Jim.
Yeah, Jim. Welcome.
Hi, Sarah. I'm an alcoholic.
Sarah. Welcome. Anybody else? Yeah. Vinny. Anybody else? The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and who is willing to sponsor, please raise their hands. So we got plenty of people willing to sponsor. If you are new or you're struggling, grab one of those people after the meeting. As Ron mentioned, we have fellowship after the meeting. Grab one of those people. We'd love to talk with you, get you into the solution a little bit. Are there any announcements from the floor for the good of AA? Yeah.
I'm Gary, and I'm an alcoholic.
Gary.
This Monday night at 6 p.m. It's the Stay Alive Literature Step meeting. You get to 6 p.m. It's right outside. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gary. Anybody else have anything going on? Nikolai.
I'm an alcoholic.
Nick.
May 17th in Sullivan, there's a spaghetti dinner. It's at 3 o'clock. Food and fellowship follow with an outline and an AA speaker. I have a flyer for the spaghetti. It's like $20. It's a good event. Dinner with Bob. And we have a Venmo as well if anyone wants to make a donation toward the 7th edition. Or the QR code will go back there or come see me and I'll bring them back.
Venmo. Now accepting Bitcoin. This group has a sister group. It's a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 right up the road here. It's at Salem UCC Church. That's 186 East Court Street in Doylestown, PA. And we have coffee on for that meeting at 6:15. So again, feel free to join us early. If you want to get involved with service, even better. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books to help those who cannot afford them can put their donations in that jar on the back table marked Big Book and CD Donations. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got a YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. We post all the speakers from this group on there. We have another YouTube channel for our Monday night group, which Gary just mentioned. We have a Facebook page. We post all our upcoming speakers on here, any events or celebrations that we have going on, workshops. A lot of other groups will post happenings they have going on, anniversaries and things that are like. So it's a good resource to have if you want to stay tied in with happenings throughout AA in the area here. And with that, I believe Thomas is going to come up here. He's going to read our Just for Today prayer of recovery.
Hi everyone, I'm Thomas and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home. This is the Just for Today prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, we're going to have Jen come up for the preamble.
Hi, I'm Jen. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Jen. This is the AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And now we'll welcome Michelle, who is going to read the steps for you.
Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Michelle and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. Hi, and I'd like to read the 12 steps. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And I'd like to bring Brian back up.
Okay, this group does have a 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'll see that the basket makes its way around. There's no dues or fees for AA membership, but we do have expenses. Your contributions do help us to cover the cost of food, rent, big books, workshops, CDs, so we do appreciate it. There's absolutely no smoking on the church property. We got a good working relationship with the church. We're allowed to hold our meeting here every week. Really, they just ask that we keep the premise clean. So just be considerate of that as you're coming and going from the meeting. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to introduce our speaker for tonight, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group on loan to us from the Newcomers Group of Lancaster. Please help me welcome Gia.
Hi guys, I'm Gia. I'm an alcoholic. Hi Gia. I have a sobriety date. It's December 5th of 2015. And, you would have thought by this point I would like not get nervous to do these things, but like a stage and a microphone like doesn't help. I always like have this moment when I'm coming up to speak, I'm like having an out-of-body experience. I'm like, I'm really gonna do this. We're doing this, so here we are. I've never been to Doylestown, so I'm happy to be here. I think my sponsor gave my number out, probably. Her name is Jane C. Maybe some of you know her. She's from Coatesville. But yeah, so I'll tell you the basics, right? I've been through the 12 steps. I've been through the 12 traditions. I have a sponsor who very much knows she's my sponsor. She's been my sponsor since day one. That woman has seen me in my worst, she's seen me in my best, and I've never, she continues to have something what I want. And what I want is a relationship with God and to walk this earth free, free of the bondage of self. And that's what she shows me on a continuous basis. I have a home group. It's the newcomers group. Not as well organized as this one. I feel like it's like kind of fancy here with all the suits and stuff. It's nice, it's awesome. And just respect for AA, it's awesome to see. Newcomers meet 7:30 on Wednesday nights in Lancaster City. So if you're ever in the area, please come check us out. And our name says it all. We're very newcomers. Ton of rehabs come there. Like if you're looking to get a sponsee or to help someone, that's the place to be. And that's ultimately why I chose it when I moved to Lancaster. And yeah, this never has been my favorite thing to do. And when I was new, there was two things I said that I would never do. I would never sponsor anyone. I would never speak at a meeting, but God had other plans. I keep getting asked to speak, and women keep asking for my help. So again, here we are. And I used to get really, really worked up about it, in the beginning, and I would think about all the things that I wanted to say, and finally someone was like, Gia, you just need to reach one person in that room, and that's all that matters, right? And if you don't hear anything from me tonight that speaks to you, please keep coming back, right? That's why we say it. I remember when I first started coming to these meetings, and I'm like, I don't think I belong here. I don't, understand what they're saying, right? I guarantee you, if you keep coming back, you will hear your story from the podium. You'll be staring yourself back, in the face. And I've tried a lot of things to stay sober, and AA has been the only thing that's helped me. So yeah, that's the basics, right? So I'm allowed to be here and talk to you tonight. So I'll tell you what it was like, what happened, what it's like now, and I've just always told my story in chronological order because that's the best way I know how to tell it, and I think it gives the best representation of how drastically that I've changed. The person standing here today is not who I was 9 years ago, and is not who I was while I was drinking when I was growing up. Sometimes I'm shocked. Sometimes I adult really hard, and I'm like, wow, I'm just so responsible now. It's crazy to think. But yeah, so I want to start by talking about how I grew up and what my childhood was like. And I do talk about that for a reason. So in my last rehab that I went in York, Pennsylvania, there was a woman that came in who brought the local AA meetings in. And she came there a couple times while I was there. And, I believe that there is so much between me and you, there's so much of me between me and you, and there's so much of me between me and God, and it's so hard to hear a message, right? But this woman came in to this rehab, and she started talking about how she used to drink, right? And she seemed to be a woman of dignity and grace, and a mom and a sister and all these awesome things. And a little bit of me broke down in that rehab, and I was able to hear a message of hope, right? And what I connected with her the most was how she talked about how she felt as a kid, and how she felt like she didn't belong, and how she felt extremely different. That's what grabbed my attention to AA, right? I'm like, well, maybe there's something here, Because when she said those things, I was like, that's exactly how I felt. I was extremely shy as a kid. Extremely quiet, reserved, and shy, to the point where I was a mute. I did not talk. People were like, is everything okay? With your daughter? She literally doesn't say a word. But I now know that today to be fear of what people think of me, scared that I'm gonna say the wrong thing, and just terrified of the world around me. And I just never talked, right? And I had this extreme perfectionism thing going on as a kid, and I still have a lot of that today, but it's obviously much better. like I would be obsessive compulsive, and I would rehearse the conversations I was gonna have with like the kids in the school and the school bus drivers and the teachers, right? And if like those conversations and those things didn't go the way they were supposed to go, like I was absolutely destroyed. We were actually reading like the third step in the car, like the whole part about the actor and the play, and like that's how I was as a kid. Like when the lights and the actors and all that was not going the way that I wanted to go, I was absolutely destroyed. I was extremely shy, extremely uncomfortable. I had this extreme perfectionism thing going on. And then on top of it, I didn't like the life that I had, right? And I don't believe that any of this makes me an alcoholic. I know it doesn't make me an alcoholic. I suffer from a spiritual malady, that can only be cured from, a power greater than myself. But I recognize that my life was like a little bit different as a kid. So I have my parents, their names are Tony and Jerry. They are of what I call the hippie variety, right? They're free spirits. They smoke a lot of weed. My dad was in a band. My mom, she's just a little wild. They were just different. And I recognized that, the way that I was being brought up was, not how I saw my other friends being brought up. We didn't go to church on Sundays. We didn't eat dinner at the dinner table every night. My parents didn't make me go into sports or dance or all these things. And I blamed the way that I was brought up for my alcoholism for a long, long time. If only my parents had done this, I wouldn't have turned out like this. And I now know that to be that is not the truth, right? I have a sister that's 6 years older than me, and she does not suffer from alcoholism or any isms, as a matter of fact. She's completely normal. But that's, and I say all this, right? What my upbringing looked like. And granted, I was loved and I was cared for. I had everything that I needed and most of what I wanted, right? But my perception, we have a disease of perception. My perception was not that. So I didn't like my life. I was uncomfortable. And I say all these things because that's what I brought to my first drink, right? And it was funny because of who my parents were. I was I'm gonna be straight as an arrow. I'm never gonna drink, I'm never gonna smoke, I'm never gonna do anything, right? But I'll tell you what, when I experienced my first drunk with my friends in 7th or 8th grade, I don't remember exactly, I had that I have arrived moment, right? I finally felt alive and I could breathe. I remember exactly what I was wearing, what I drank, who I was with, and most importantly, how I felt. And how I felt was it finally shut up the committee in my head. And I still have that committee in my head today, right? On a daily basis, I wake up with a committee in my head. And if I don't take steps like prayer and meditation and helping other people, I go in the wrong direction that day. I fell in love with drinking. It's simple as that. I loved the way that it made me feel. I finally felt comfortable in my own skin. And I can't say that I became a daily drinker at 13 years old. Most people don't have access to alcohol that much, but I drank as much as I could. Whenever I could get my hands on it, I did. And then fast forward into high school, to kind of paint a picture. My parents, my mom, I don't know, she got a promotion. They came into a little bit of money and they bought this boat, right? And they named the boat Woodstock. And they would go to this boat every single weekend. And I was in high school, right? So they would go to this boat every single weekend, even in the winter. It was the strangest thing. And they'd leave me alone. And I started to realize that drinking and alcohol could do other things for me. It could make me popular, and it could make people want to come over my house and party, and I could be the center of attention. And I started to become addicted to that, the party. I wasn't into sports or anything, and it gave me friends, right? And I absolutely loved it. And, I got into some minor trouble back then, but, during high school and through college, and particularly in high school, my parents would get phone calls about the parties. My teachers would hear stories. Actually, our football coach lived 2 doors down from us, and they'd see all the people walk into my house and stuff, and you'd hear the stories about what I did over the weekend and stuff, and everyone just kind of chalked it up because I was a straight A student. I recognized that I was an easy a quick study, and I could do good in school, and if I could keep the the outsides together, which is like a common theme throughout my drinking career, no one will question my alcoholism or my drinking or anything. And I recognized that all the way back in high school. Like, okay, like I'm a good student, like, so what? Like I'm doing whatever, right? I'm from New Jersey originally. I don't know if anyone's from Jersey here. So if you would have told me, so like if you're from Jersey, you're like Jersey girl, like all the way, right? Like you're really Jersey proud, which I am. And I often was like, oh, people from Pennsylvania are like, they're strange, right? So if you would have told me, they're not. If you would have told me like 9 years ago that I would have a Pennsylvania driver's license, like pumping my own gas, like I would have thought you were nuts. Like when I got my license back, finally when I got sober, I learned to pump my own gas, right? Like I had no idea. My mom was like, listen, there's 2 things Jersey girls don't do. They don't pump gas and they don't mow lawns, right? So I didn't learn until I was 30 years old, and I'm proud of that, you know? I still make my husband do it. Like I hate it, it's ridiculous. But whatever. So I'm from Jersey, right? And never thought I'd leave the state, but I did. And so it was time to go to college, right? So I went 45 minutes up the turnpike to Rutgers University, and the way that I chose that college was I was on a tour and I saw Frat Row and people drinking like with their red Solo cups, and I saw like the beer posters on the walls of people's dorm rooms, and I'm like, great, sign me up, want to go here, you know? Not too far from home, if I need mommy and daddy, great, you know? So I get to college the first day, and if any of you are familiar with the university, there's like multiple ones in New Brunswick. And I guess I must have just not read the fine print, but I thought I was going to like College Ave, where like all the cool people are, and all of a sudden I'm on like the one with the pharmacists and the engineers, and I'm like, this isn't my people. Like I want to be like by Frat Row, you know? But like any alcoholic, you find your people. And that first day I found a girl named Veronica, and we quit orientation and we're drinking in her dorm room, and she was from North Jersey. North Jersey and South and Central, all very different, right? So I'm from Central Jersey, and you know, it was kind of like hickish, like around where we grew up. So like our ideas of partying were like bonfires in the woods and like whatever, right? But she was from North Jersey, and her friends were different, and they were kind of fancy, right? They were like spawns of like the Real Housewives of New Jersey kids. And they like to drink the way that I like to drink. And they introduced me to a lot of different things. And the way my 4 years of college looked like was I was awake for 4 years, right? And I fell in love with a lot of other substances besides alcohol. And you know what, like it tells us in Bill's story, like we often use morphine and high-powered sedatives, so I'm not exactly like breaking traditions here. You know, a lot of us have a lot of things in our story, and doesn't, you know, it's fine. It started with alcohol and it ended with alcohol with me, and there was a lot in between. And so yeah, my college years, that's where I believed that like, you know, I sober or not know the difference between right and wrong. But drinking and that lifestyle becomes so important to me. I don't really care about the woman that I become, right? And I slowly but surely become the woman that, I wouldn't even call myself a woman at that point, but you know, the person that you're not gonna leave your purse in the room alone with, because I'm gonna go through your stuff, I'm gonna take your money, I'm gonna take whatever's in there, and I'm gonna look in your medicine cabinet, and if it says it causes dizziness, I'm gonna take it, right? Because I so desperately just always could not be sober, right? And you know, I'd be lying to you if I said like those years weren't fun, right? Because they were, right? Like they were fun, and you know, a lot of people were doing what I was doing, and I just loved the reputation of like being that party girl that you never knew what was going to happen when you went out with me, right? And all was fine, right? And miraculously, I did graduate college, and I actually did pretty well again, because you know, I would suffer like minor consequences, like public drunkenness, or minor car accidents, or getting kicked out of this bar, or like failed a class or two. But overall, I was a good student, and I showed up for my classes, and I showed up for my internship, and I held a job, right? And that's all my parents could ask, right? So like, who's to say that like she has a problem with substances? And I graduate, and I actually graduated with a degree in public health, which would have been super useful during COVID times if I was, in that field. But I have an ego, right? And my ego often, chases material things. And the starting salaries for my degree were too low, right? And I was an assistant manager. Oh, let me just back up. So I didn't want to go into my field because it just wasn't enough money. It wasn't good enough. And I got this outside sales job as soon as I graduated. And, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm faced to have to be like an adult sober and have like adult conversations with people, I don't know how to do that at 21 years old, right? Without drinking or having some kind of something in my body, right? So of course I was fired from that sales job within a week on the job because I was drunk, right? Because I don't know how to show up and talk to professionals. Like, no way, right? Who cares if I have a college degree? Like, I drank the entire time. So I was an assistant manager at like a retail store when I was in college, and I went back to my old boss and I asked her for a job, and she actually awarded me or gave me my own store up in North Jersey in Garden State Plaza. And within 6 months, I was a training manager and then a district manager running like 13 stores in New Jersey and New York. And it like all happened very quickly, and I was making really good money for my age. I had 2 major careers, jobs, whatever you want to call them, before I actually got sober at 29. And I always say that the first 2 years were great, right? I was showing up, I was winning awards, people liked me, people liked to work for me. The 3rd year was kind of shady, and then the 4th year was an absolute disaster, right? Because I was living up in Hackensack, New Jersey. I was partying on the weekends in Hoboken in the city, and I was becoming like super addicted to the like fast-paced lifestyle of like drinking and going out and partying, working hard, playing hard, like whatever you want to call it, trying to get money, be a hustler, whoever I thought I was, right? Hanging out, buying people drinks at the bar, like just creating this like life that I thought that I needed, right? Like more. And, I don't care how much money you make, right? Like eventually you don't have enough to drink and do the things that I want to do. And it like starts off slow, right? Like I max out my credit cards, I take out some payday loans, I'm borrowing some money from my parents. But I so desperately need you to believe that like everything is okay on the outside, right? So I'm still like buying new clothes, and I have a nice car, and I have this nice fancy apartment with a doorman and like all this stuff, right? But then I'm like, well, I don't have enough money. So slowly I start taking from like these stores, right? And I'm like, okay, well, this is working. And I know these things are wrong, when I'm doing it. Like I was not taught to steal from my employer. So I had keys to all these stores, right? And I would like army crawl into these malls at night. Like this was what, like 15 years ago? Yeah, 15 years ago. Like you could just walk into a mall at night. Like it was the wildest thing. I don't think you can do that anymore. You could just like prop open the door. You could go through like these back ways and like get into the stores. And it became like this big scam. I would take the deposits, sign people's name, pretend I'm dropping them off at the bank, but I would be 2 days later, I would do faulty returns, other employees are getting trouble for the missing money, and like it was years, right? But no, like my boss, right, could never think it was me, because like I'm so nice to you and I'm so manipulative and I can get you to believe that I am a good girl and I'm a nice girl and I'm watching your son on the weekends sometimes, right? And there's no way that it could be me, right? Until it's eventually so obvious that it's me stealing all this money from all these stores. Like I'm the only common denominator, right? And I remember coming into work one day and she was there with like some loss prevention people, and she sat me down and she looked at me and she's like, Gia, is it drugs? And I was like, no. And mind you, I was probably like 100 pounds. Like I was clearly not well, right? Like there was clearly something wrong. Because I'm not capable of being honest at that point in my life. Like there's no way that I'm willing to admit that I have a problem with alcohol. And, by the grace of God, and it's crazy because I used to take meetings into the prison for years. By the grace of God, God did not think I would jail well. They did not send me to jail, and they gave me the opportunity to pay back some of the money, like a figure. Obviously, I was fired, a figure that they came up with. And I'd love to tell you, that I paid back that money in an honest way. No, I manipulated other people to give me money. I stole jewelry, a bunch of different things, just to quickly get out of that situation. And you would have thought going through something like that where you almost go to jail for stealing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, would have woke me up to the fact that I have a problem with drinking. It did not occur to me that I have a problem with drinking, just like it didn't occur to me when I got fired from that first job that I had a problem with drinking because I couldn't show up to an appointment sober. I thought I had a problem with stealing. So I was like, I'll just stop stealing, So yeah, I pretty much stopped stealing, actually, to be honest, from that point on. And, so here I'm left with, I can't afford this apartment, I can't, whatever. There was a man that I had been dating since I was 18 years old, on and off for a while. We had known each other for a long time. And, he always wanted to settle down. And I was like, no, I'm an independent woman. I just wanted to drink the way that I wanted to drink, right? But now I have no job, no money, no place to live, so it's time to settle down. So that's what I do. He becomes my hostage for the next 4 or 5 years, right? And I made him believe that I wanted all the same things, that I was a good girl, and that I could be a good future wife and do all those things. But I sure wasn't. And I made his family believe those things as well. Sometimes I get cringe because I'm like, oh, I was in his sister's wedding. There's family photos of me out there, But I move in with him and, and I'm married now, so hopefully I get a chance to talk about it. But, he became my God and my solution to every problem that was myself. His friends became my friends. What he liked to do is what I like to do. And we do that as alcoholics. We leech on something that is going to be our solution, whether it's a job, a relationship, whatever. He became my solution for a while until it just doesn't work anymore. And I became immersed in his life, right? And, I was able to put the harder stuff down, and I was just drinking. And, he actually was a hard drinker, and he liked to drink with me and go out and do all the things, right? But what happens is we're in our mid-20s, getting to later 20s, and the party is dying for everyone else, right? They no longer want to go out on a Tuesday night. And I don't understand why the party's dying, because I want to continue to drink and have fun and live vicariously, do whatever. But these people are starting to make plans to get married and buy houses and just be responsible. And the funny thing is, after that job that I got fired, I walked into a bank because I needed a new bank account because the other one got charged off. And I actually hit it off with the branch manager there, and she hired me as a banker. And it's funny because she had no idea that I literally ripped off my last employer, and they're trusting me with money. And again, I just kind of get lucky, right? God gives me this opportunity that we build our lives up and we just bring them down, right? God gives me an opportunity within 6 months, and I'm a branch manager and running a couple different branches in Princeton, New Jersey. And I have this great opportunity, right? And I have, this man that's going to take care of me and all these things. But during that time, I believe that I really passed that imaginary line where I no longer had the choice in drink. Okay, people don't want to go out with me. People don't want to party with me. They're sick of my antics. Whatever, right? So I no longer have the choice in drink, and I have to drink every single night and be blackout drunk to go to sleep. And I'm sure some of you can relate. I would go through I would pretend I have a glass of wine in front of me while we're watching TV, but I'm chugging the bottle of vodka in my kitchen, right? So I can just pass out, and I'd fill it little by little with water, right? All those little things, so you don't notice that I just drank all that. I would pretend to get up to go to the gym in the morning, right? But I'm actually really hungover, and I'm just going there to shower, and I'm emptying my bottles there in their dumpster. And I'm doing things like going to this liquor store, Tuesday and Thursday, and going to the other one Friday and Sunday, whatever, right? the alcoholic life is the only normal one for me when I'm in it, right? Like, but I don't realize that I'm doing all this based off my decision to drink. And you know, life just gets really bad and it gets really sad. And I thought, well, maybe there's something to this, like getting married and like having a house. Like maybe that'll make me happy, right? So like we have plans to get married. We buy a house. I have all the things, right? But on a daily basis, I want to kill myself and I can't stop putting vodka in my coffee in the morning and I don't know what's wrong with me. And I'm unwilling to see or admit that I could potentially be an alcoholic at 29 years old. And I would lie, right? There was like this one incident, I like called the cops on myself. I don't really know what happened, to be honest. But all of a sudden there was cops and my parents and like whatever. You know, I remember lying to their face and just telling them that I took too much of like prescription medication. I wasn't on any prescriptions. I just was so embarrassed to admit that it's just like, I can't stop drinking, right? And you know, it all looked like very much like mental health and stuff. And I just, you know, it's crazy. And I could go down, you know, the list of all like the drunk-a-log, right? But I don't really need to. I'm sure you guys have all been there, the Christmases and the Easters and the Thanksgivings and all the events that I was supposed to show up to and all the events that I ruined and I disappointed people and, you know, the vain attempts that, like, for me, like, my drinking makes me want to kill myself, you know? It's just really sad. And, but I'm just unwilling to see anything. And I remember after one of the last incidents that I had, I was sitting out on the front porch with my ex and I was stone cold sober, and he's like, listen, if you don't stop doing whatever you're doing, like, you will be asked to leave, right? And if you had hooked me up to a lie detector test, I was absolutely telling the truth that you know, I said, absolutely, I will stop. Like, I'm done doing everything that I'm doing. And I meant it, right? But like, frothy emotional appeal, like, people cannot keep us sober, people and things. And I meant it, but within a week I was drunk again. And I was asked to leave that house and just went on like another downward spiral, of different detoxes and DUIs, whatever. And, you know, fast forward, my parents, during this time, my mom and my sister did find Al-Anon. Great program, but not great when you're in active drinking because your family doesn't really want to help you like they used to. But they drove me to the last rehab out in York, Pennsylvania. And man, I just remember like being in that car and just thinking like, all right, like, let's just try this. If it doesn't work, I'll just end it all. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't even care, right? I'd love to tell you that I was like super eager to like go there and like be sober, you know, after like a huge intervention with my family and my friends and all that, but I just wasn't. Like, I really didn't even care, right? But I get there, and like I told you about the woman in the beginning, you know, something in my heart, like, you know, opened up to a message at AA. And honestly, like, prior to that, I had gone to one AA meeting, and I went with my mom, and I remember like being so terrified because I know they did the Lord's Prayer at the end and I didn't know the prayer, so like I didn't even pay attention to anything and I just ran out because I thought everyone would notice that I didn't know the Lord's Prayer. No, they don't care. No one cares. So my first experience with AA was that woman that came in and brought those meetings, and like, thank God, you know, and I think God puts us in positions to help people when like they're ready to hear a message, and I was ready to hear a message and I was done. And during that, I was supposed to just stay there for 30 days like normal, but during that 30 days, like, just a huge wave of like fear set over me, like fear of my financial problems, like legal problems, having to face my family and my friends, and I was so terrified to leave rehab, right, that I voluntarily extended 2 more weeks because I was just like not ready to face the world. And during those 2 weeks, I heard of a recovery house. I knew nothing about recovery houses or halfway houses or sober houses or any of that stuff. And honestly, I'm glad I didn't, because maybe I wouldn't have went. I don't know. But my plan was honestly to go to that recovery house, like my plan, my ideas and my plans. Like, this was my idea, right? It wasn't. So my idea was to go to this recovery house for 30 more days and let everyone just cool off at home, right? I'll get a new job. I lost my license, but my mom's retired. She'll drive me to work. He'll forgive me. He'll let me back in the house. Like trying to arrange all the things that I think I need in my life, right? That was my plan for that recovery house. And, I thought I'd be there for 30 days. I lived in that recovery house for a year and a half. I did relapse pretty soon after I got there. And honestly, it was because of my ego, right? Like I was saying in the beginning, I started going to the meetings in York and I was sitting there and I'm like, I didn't do what she did or he did. I don't belong here. You know what I mean? Like I started to separate myself out and like, I have a disease that wants to kill me and it will convince me that I don't belong here, even years later. And it's absolutely happened to me, again. I didn't relapse, but so like I needed that experience of getting kicked out of that recovery house, knowing absolutely no one in York, Pennsylvania, and being at like the gross roadway inn downtown, right, with a bag full of laundry and no one. But what I did have was I had a number from my sponsor. A couple days prior to that, she had picked me up for a women's meeting and I had drank that day. And, she asked me like, did you drink today? And I was like, no. But I was sober enough that she still sat with me at that diner after that women's meeting and she read the doctor's opinion to me. And what stuck with me wasn't necessarily the words, right? It stuck with me that like she was willing to help and she had something that I wanted. So when I was alone in that hotel room, I called her and, she basically said to me in so many words, like, Gia, you can go on to the bitter end, which usually means death or insanity for us. Or you can pick up the simple set of spiritual tools that are laid out in this book, right? And I was like, ooh, that's a hard choice, And you're like, I don't know, it sounds kind of hard, but I did it, right? I woke up the next morning and I marched down to that recovery house. I asked for forgiveness and they let me back in. And the rest is kind of history, right? Definitely not everyone needs the experience of being in a recovery house and going through that process to get sober. We can get sober anywhere if it's our time, right? And you seek a relationship with God. Get sober where you drank. You can get sober at home. It doesn't really matter. But for me, I think my ego was just so big for so many years that I really just needed to be in a place, like looking back on it, that really humbled me, right? Like all I had to worry about was like getting a simple job, right? Starting to pay back some bills, do a chore, right? Get to some meetings, do a 90 and 90, get a home group, get a sponsor, do all that stuff. Like I had to be like, I don't know if I could have like done it on my own. I have no idea. But I know that was my experience and I'm super grateful for it. And the first time I went through the steps, they were, let me just check the time. An absolute blur. Like, I don't know if anyone else has had that experience. You're like, you're taught like, and we know like the program of AA is in this book, but I'm like reading this book with this woman. I'm like, I don't understand any of this, right? And that's okay, right? Because eventually you help other people and you go through the steps every single time. And there's not a time that I don't read that book and I don't hear something new or different every time I'm with somebody. What she did for me and what the women did for me that I met in the fellowship was they created an unshakable foundation in AA. And that foundation is still with me today, right? They taught me the simple things of like etiquette in a meeting, right? Like stay off your phone, come early, stay late, show up to the business meeting, get a commitment, get a home group that you love and you can be of service of. I think I made coffee for the first year of my sobriety, right? And I still make coffee, right? Like I still do that at my home group. I still pick up newcomers, right? Like I am never too good to do those basic foundational things, right? If I want to stay happy and I want to stay sober. When she told me to pray, I prayed. When she told me to write an inventory, I did that. When she told me to make an amends, I did that. And when she told me it was time to start helping other women, I did that, right? Even though I was terrified to do a lot of those things. But I finally realized like I didn't have to do them alone. I had her, I had other women, and most importantly, I was developing a relationship with God. I'll just touch on that a little bit. So I was not one of those people that were atheist, agnostic, any of those things, right? Like I knew there was a God, right? Logically speaking, how could there be like so many people in this world that believe in a God and go to church on Sundays if there wasn't one, right? I just didn't think it was me. or was going to work for me and my alcoholism. I thought I was unique and I thought I was special, right? That there's no way that a relationship with a higher power can help me or relieve me of my alcoholism. But it's true. And, my relationship with God has been ever changing. And I believe that, it was really simple in the beginning. But as you stay sober and you go through things, when you have to walk through those fears, those scary things that might have been on your first inventory, you grow closer to God, realizing that you can go through all this stuff and it's going to be okay, right? And I used to complicate what God meant to me, right? The book says our own conception of God. But I used to really try to complicate it. And in recent years, I'm just all God means to me today, to simplify it and sum it up, is I'm never alone, right? For someone that felt alone for so many years, I could feel alone in a room full of people, right? And I felt like nobody understood me. I no longer feel like that. And that is such a gift that I didn't know that I was going to get. I had no idea AA truly had to offer something like that to me. And it's really been an awesome thing. Yeah, and when she told me to get a job, I got a job. And I did all the simple things, and she taught me how to be a woman of dignity and grace. And so did all the other, my sponsee sisters and whatnot. And I remember sponsoring my first, I'll talk about sponsorship really quick, right? So I remember sponsoring the first girl. I was still living in the recovery house, and I'm there's no way that I have anything to offer someone else, right? But it's God wrapped someone up in a bow and put her right in front of me, and she lived in a recovery house, I lived in a recovery house, and we'd walk and we'd do step work, and it was the most awesome experience that I've ever had, right? And if you don't sponsor, and if you're bored in AA, get a new sponsee, right? It's awesome, it's fun. And that just proves to me that I've had a spiritual experience, right? Someone like me 9 years ago who had no interest in helping anyone unless they were going to give me something, to today to have the attitude to happily help someone for free and for fun, is awesome, right? And, sometimes we're the only, walking, talking example of a big book, right? So I try to do the best that I can, right? Sponsoring women, makes me a better person. It really does, right? How can I say to pray? How can I say, to write some inventory? How can I say to call me if I'm not doing all those things myself, right? And a lot's happened in 9 years, almost 10 years. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I eventually moved out of that recovery house. I got an apartment. And then I met a man in AA, right? And we got married, right? We got married about 6 years ago. And I'll talk about that. So to me, that, has been a big symbol of what this program can do. The program didn't give me a husband. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, multiple people after we got married. Mind you, AA was all over that wedding, right? Half of our bridal party was from AA. Our sponsors were there. They spoke, they did readings, and multiple people came up to me and was Gia, your dad thanked me, at the wedding. And I was what? And mind you, my mom and my sister have always been super involved, with my recovery and all that stuff. But my dad has always taken a step back and has just been okay, cool. Just never really had many conversations about what I do in AA or anything like that. So here he must have recognized that obviously most of these people were from AA, and he went up to a ton of them and thanked them for giving their daughter, his daughter back to him. I had no idea my family, he felt like that. And that's an awesome thing, right? Sure, I did a direct amends. Sure, I've been living in amends, but I didn't know, he was so grateful for AA. He's never told me that, but he told about 10 people in that room that night. And then my mother-in-law, who's a pastor, who often married people and would get invited to the wedding, would never watch the mother-son dance because it was just too painful. She had already planned her son's funeral, right? And, as soon as she gets up there to start dancing with him, she's immediately start crying. And she says, it's because I never thought I'd get this opportunity. And that's what AA has to offer, right? It can give us our families back and give us how nice that my mom and my dad and my husband's mom and dad no longer have to worry about their children. They don't wonder where we are at night. they don't worry about anything. Like, that's a beautiful thing, right? And you know, if you want to practice principles, marry another alcoholic. But it's been an awesome experience. But for those, you know, I tell some of the girls that I sponsor and stuff, like, AA doesn't promise us a husband. AA doesn't promise us a nice job. AA doesn't promise us like a nice big house or anything like that. It promises us peace and serenity, a new outlook on life and all those things, right? So I take my marriage like very seriously, right? Like I told you about my ex and how dependent I was on him, right? I don't go to meetings with my husband. We don't have the same home group. He works a completely different program. We work the same program, like the steps are the same. But you know, his program is his program and my program is my program. Is AA in our home? Absolutely. Like through our conversations and how we interact with each other. It's an awesome thing. Like, but I don't tell him to call a sponsor. I don't tell him to do things. He doesn't tell me to do anything of that, right? Because I would never want to be sitting next to my husband and like, you know, a new girl think that, you know, you'll get one if you stay here, right? Like, I want you to know that like we have so much more to offer here. So I'm really grateful like for my sponsor for that and like teaching me how to navigate that relationship and sobriety. And okay, so 9/21. So, you know, I say all this stuff, right? Like how great AA has been, how great of an experience that I've had, and how much AA has given back to me. About 3 years ago, we moved from York County to Lancaster County. And, you know, it was an upgrade in life, right? Like we got a bigger house, I got a new dog, but I started going to meetings in Lancaster and I was like, oh, these meetings are different, right? And I like stopped going to AA as much as I used to. And I'm like, what happens when I stop surrounding myself with this program is like, there's a lot of me that comes back. And like my disease tells me that like, you did this, Gia, like you created this life and you no longer need AA, right? And I'm like, I'm good, I'm fine, right? And I stopped going to meetings and I don't find a new home group in Lancaster. And I let go of some of my sponsees from York and I'm not reaching my hand out to the newcomer, right? And you know, it doesn't return in the form of like, I wanted to drink, thank God. Would it have? Yes, absolutely. But what happens is I revert back to that selfish, self-centered, all about me, ungrateful person, right? Because when I'm not here hearing a message of hope and reaching my hand out to the newcomer, I become selfish and I become ungrateful. And all of a sudden the things around me are no longer good enough, right? And I no longer treat my husband and my family and my friends with the love and the kindness that they deserve, right? And I stop calling my parents. It happens quickly for me. And I'm super grateful that I had that experience. But, you know, I recognized it, right? I was like miserable, absolutely miserable. And I'm like, what's going on? But it's because of that foundation that I was taught in the very beginning. Like I tell girls I sponsor, like the beginning years are so precious. Like if you could just like do the work now, like it'll carry you through, right? And I reached this point in my life where like God was testing my sobriety, right? And thinking that like I had something to do with it and like I stopped doing this. But like magic, right? Like I do those foundational things, right? I start calling my sponsor again. I find a new home group. I get a commitment in that home group. I start sponsoring girls and like, it's not magic, like it's the program. Like I start to feel better, right? And I'm happy and I'm whole again, right? But yeah, I mean, it can be hard to come here when things are good, you know, and that was like my experience a few years ago. Trying to think what else I want to say. Yeah, I might wrap it up a few minutes early if you don't mind. I think I've like run out of steam here. It's almost my bedtime. I was like telling her, I was like, oh man, like 8:30 meeting, like our meeting's at 7:30. I'm like usually home in bed by 9. But yeah, and I also I did notice like the welcome home thing, that a couple of you said that. Like that's such a beautiful thing. And maybe I'll steal that idea for our home group. It's really nice. Because AA is my home, right? Like my friends, my fellowship, everything. It's been an awesome, awesome ride. And I'll end with this, and I talk about this a lot too, is like the triangle, right? There's a triangle and a circle on our coin. I was told, I don't know how true this is, so don't quote me, and I'm no AA history expert. I like to think I know a little bit, but that symbol with the triangle and the circle was chosen because it was a symbol from the medieval times that was used to ward off spirits. And spirits is another name for alcohol, right? And every side of the triangle needs each other, right? So you have to, and then the circle creates the wholeness of everything. To me, I cannot do this like half measures avails nothing, right? Like I have to continue to go to meetings. I have to continue to sponsor. I have to be of service, like the intergroup in the district and all that stuff, right? Like I have to be involved in each point of AA because I've tried the just coming to meetings and hoping that sobriety rubs off on me. I've tried to like just sponsor and not do anything else, right? Like to me, I have to have all sides of those triangles working, like the unity, the service, all that, the recovery, the 12 steps, the 12 traditions, and the 12 concepts. Because there's just so much like to offer here. And you know, one of the traditions does state the only requirement for AA is a desire to stop drinking, and I have a desire to never drink again, and I'll keep coming back. So thanks for having me.
My name's Nick, I'm an alcoholic. Let's give G another round of applause. Two things, I think she's from Pennsylvania because she said water. And also, maybe you can explain to us afterwards how to use a jug handle. Anyway, our speakers come here at their own time and expense, so it's customary for us to form a line here in the front. We thank them on a personal level. Let's thank Howard for all the hard work in the kitchen tonight, making the coffee and taking care of the kitchen. Thank you, Howard. We could use some help cleaning up. We'll put all these chairs away into the closet here. All the chairs at the table can stay. And if you care to join us, we'll circle up and say the Lord's Prayer. Okay, we'll have a brief moment of silence. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses,